Welcome to Locker Talk, episode 21. The show everything WWE, past, present, and future. Your favorite non-wrestling wrestling show on all of YouTube. I am your host, Colton, as always by my side, my co-host, the main event, Matt. We're back, folks. After a long hiatus of 1 week, we are back for episode 21, our all-American episode of Locker Talk. It's going to be great. We're going to have some great topics. We got a ton of fan questions, a ton of fan input onto the show. So we're just going to get rolling, and we're going to start it off. Matt and I are what you might call good red-blooded patriotic Americans.
America.
Oh yeah, America. Oh yeah. And one great thing about America, wrestling, and that's why we're all here, to talk about wrestling. And the WWE, as you might know, if you've ever watched that ever in your life, has done a lot of stuff supporting the good old US of A. There's been a number of great characters who have been very patriotic. So, Matt, why don't you take us through a few of those all-time great patriotic Americans in the WWE?
Of course, we've had quite a few. We have one that will not be named. I'm not going to talk about him because we don't like him.
We will later, though.
Sergeant Slaughter, arguably one of the most American characters in WWE/WWF. Fantastic Hall of Famer, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The very first Royal Rumble winner before it was for a title shot. Then we have Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the most prolific wrestlers of all time. One of the most patriotic and American wrestlers. We have John Bradshaw Layfield. Most of you know him as JBL on commentary that won't shut his mouth. We know him as a very patriotic wrestler that lived the American dream, starting out in a small town, starting out with nothing, and building that empire up. And that happened in real life for him, actually. He built it all up. All of his money is homemade. I'm not saying he counterfeited. That's illegal, actually. We have Kurt Angle. Most of you guys nowadays, if you're new fans, won't realize Kurt Angle was a great WWE. But you know him nowadays as a TNA wrestler. He's like a 13-time World Heavyweight Champion over there. I don't know. They give him out like candy. But over in WWE, he was a former World Heavyweight Champion. I think a U.S. champion. He actually won the Olympic gold medal after he broke his neck?
With a broken freaking neck, as he liked to put it.
Broken freaking neck, he won the Olympic gold. You can't beat that. That's American right there. And then, of course, we have John Cena up there, always giving the troops all the benefits, always saluting, coming out there. He's an American right there. And then we have possibly the most American wrestler of all time. We, the people. Jack Swagger. That's an American right there, if I ever saw one. Don't tread on me right there on his tights. We saw it on Monday. If you didn't see it, wait another 6 months, you'll see it again.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta love the All-American American. One thing I love about WWE is all that they do for the military and veterans. I do believe that they give away all tickets to veterans are all free. last I checked, for all veterans to go to a WWE event. It's free. It's great stuff they do. So if you would like to go to the WWE events more, perhaps be one of those super fans who apparently does not have a job but still gets great seats, go join the military, fight for our country, maybe win a cool Purple Heart or something like that. Defend the country, become a legend, and then go to WWE for free. Just thought, I don't know. But one of the things I love about the WWE is the yearly tribute to the troops, which is it was a great show. Back in the day, they used to go over to Iraq and Afghanistan to support the troops and put on a live show over there, which is always really cool to see. They always made it really, really fun. They always brought Santa Claus out. It was around Christmas time. And it was just a great way to, Mick Santa, or good old Saint Nick. There we are. It was a good way to support the troops. It was really fun. It's kind of dwindled down a little bit to just being taped on any given random SmackDown anymore. But I really think that's probably a good thing. You know, we're not as focused on being at war with terrorists anymore. We're trying to move away from that stuff, which is definitely good. And also, we do want to take this time, as always, to thank all of our active military personnel and all the veterans that have supported these United States and made this the greatest country in the world. America, wake up, America. Huh. Okay, we're gonna move on from America.
We're gonna shoot.
All right, let's go. Next. All right. We've had some fun. We're going to have some more fun now. First off here, we want to thank everyone who participated in our fan votes. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we had a vote on Twitter with help of our good friend Steven Sorrell on his awesome website, letstalkwwe.com. Go check it out. He has a lot of great articles.
Pretty awesome.
Some cool stuff about Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt. A lot of great stuff he has over there. You should definitely go check it out. But we posted a poll of which superstars you wanted us to discuss on the show. We're going to do an in-depth discussion on these superstars. We said we were going to do 2. However, with the way the voting turned out, you get 3. So, without further ado, I will announce the winner of the votes. And then I will send it over to Matt, because I'm sure Matt is really excited that this person won the vote as he's moving his thing around. Nice Dean Ambrose shirt, by the way. Sadly, it wasn't Dean Ambrose. He wasn't an option.
World premiere of the shirts.
Although he might be an option because somebody did vote for other, but they did not specify who the other they wanted to vote for was. So whoever that was, I'm sorry you wasted your vote. But the winner with a grand total of 35-ish% of the vote, the rated R superstar, Edge. Matt, why don't you take it away?
Edge. Edge is one of my top 3 favorite all-time wrestlers. You can't help but love the guy. I mean, sure, he pulled a douche mover with stealing Lita from Matt in real life, and that was kind of bummed out. But, I mean, the guy exuberates what you want from a WWE superstar. He made you love him, then he made you hate him, then love him, then hate him, and love him. He really manipulated us better than anybody else in recent history. If he wanted to be a heel, he could be a heel. If he wanted to be a face, he could be a face. Either way, he'd be so over. His entrance was phenomenal. When the music hit and that the dry ice and the fog came up, and he just came out with that leather jacket. And I actually read an article on that leather jacket. He went up to the costume designer and said, "Hey, I want a leather jacket." So that costume designer took like 14 or 15 different pieces of leather, and it's all these different leathers sewn together. So it's a really cool jacket. He still has it. It's at his house, even though he's retired now. So he loved that thing. He is 41 years old now. But if you ask me, if he was still wrestling and he didn't have that neck condition, he would be world champ. he'd be just as good as he's always been doing that spear. Speaking of that spear, how awesome of a finishing move was that? It's like the RKO. You got the guy down. Edge would just get in the corner. It almost, if I'm not wrong, reminded me of Tuning Up the Band.
Yeah.
From good old HBK.
HB Shizzle, who got our pity vote in the poll.
Yeah, HBK would tune up the band. Edge would just wait for him to get up in the corner. He would just beg for him to get up, spear him. And a spear is a kind of generic move, so it really takes a special person to have it as a finishing move. And Edge just pulled it off perfectly. He did it great. He's a 5-time Intercontinental Champion. Get this, a 14-time Tag Team Champion. That's unheard of, off the charts. An 11-time World Heavyweight Champion. That's impressive right there. He's a King of the Ring winner, a Royal Rumble winner, 2-time Money in the Bank winner, even though that second time you kind of have to put an asterisk by because he didn't technically win it. And then he's also a Triple Crown winner. He was part of 2 dynamic tag teams, Edge and Christian, 20 pounds of hair in the ring at all times. And then later in life, he was a part of Rated RKO, a really awesome tag team of the future. What can I say about it? I mean, he was the best theme song, the best entrance, the best ring demeanor. He almost had sex on the ring, or in the ring, with the World Heavyweight Championship belt with him. He once tossed the WWE Championship belt in the Boston River. That really says all there is to say about him. He was part of some of the last really great hardcore matches before WWE banned them with John Cena. His feud with John Cena is legendary because you had the Ultimate Underdog and Edge, and John Cena back then, kiddos, looked like Brock Lesnar looked now. Unbeatable, extremely strong. Edge had to pull out all the stops, and it was a really great rivalry to follow. What do you think about him?
I think some people would argue that John Cena is still booked as being unbeatable, as he's only lost 10 times in the last 10 years. But yeah, I don't have as big of a man crush on Edge as you do. But that's not a joke on his luscious golden hair. It is quite nice hair. But yeah, Edge. What can you say about Edge? The first thing a lot of people think about Edge is spearing Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania 17. Jeff dangling from the title belts, and you see that awesome spear from the ladder. It's an iconic moment. It's one that will go down in the history of wrestling. It's just one of those awesome moments in wrestling. And honestly, at that, Edge would have been remembered forever. But like Matt said, he went on to become an 11-time World Heavyweight Champion. He had a great career. Really amazing. Like you said, what I loved about Edge, and what I also loved about the next guy, and even the next guy after that, I loved Edge's theme. Man, the guy always had a great theme, especially that last one that he had. It was really, really good. Really get you pumped up, with all the dry ice coming. And Edge is just up there getting really, really pumped and psyched up. I really enjoyed watching that. Oh gosh, my notes are falling. Goodness. But yeah, Edge. The reason I say I don't like Edge as much as you do, it's just that it's not that I didn't like him. It's just, as I've said before, Edge was mostly a SmackDown guy for his main eventing career, and I just never got into SmackDown as much. As most people say, it was definitely the B show of Raw and SmackDown, and so I never really got into Edge as much. I mean, I still respected the guy as being a great talent. He's always done some really great things, but I never just got into him as much, and I may have still held a grudge, or not really held a grudge, but still just going back to the being younger and liking all the faces and disliking all the heels. Edge and Christian were great heels back in their heyday. And so that might have carried over a little bit into my not liking Edge as much. But another thing I really remember about Edge was that retirement speech he did on Raw. There's been a few of these retirement speeches that just pulls at your heartstrings. You know, Ric Flair was one of them, but Edge was just so unexpected, and you could obviously tell how much everyone appreciated Edge, and how much he meant to wrestling as a whole on that night when they did that great tribute to Edge. And so, yeah, I really like the guy. I've got a few of my favorite Edge matches. Okay, apparently I only wrote one of them down. Just automatically put any TLC match with Christian in there. That's always going to be one. The other one was, as Matt said, against John Cena at Unforgiven 2006 TLC match, which Edge did lose to Cena, but it was a really good match. I thought both of them put on a really good show. Edge just had this way of really making you dislike him. He was a great foil for for super good guy Cena. You know, Edge was the guy who was willing to do whatever it takes to win the title, to keep hold of the title. Kind of like an older time Seth Rollins, if you will. He played it, and sometimes if he had to be the cowardly kind of guy, he would do that. But at the same time, he could go out there and he could back it up and put on a great show. And one thing you reminded me of when you were talking about how we would get amped up in the corner for the spear, I've completely forgot about that. And now that you mentioned it, I realize how much I love it. You can just see Edge just kind of pulling at his hair, getting really psyched, just ready just to spear you in half. And you could just see the intensity in his eyes. And that was another really great thing about Edge. And I think it's only proper to honor Edge that we pay tribute to Edge. And so for the benefit of those of you with flash photography, we will now be doing a 5-second pose. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, man. Good old Edge. And now,
also in his retirement speech, he came out with he relinquished the World Heavyweight Championship, and he actually said, he's like, I have the coolest ring entrance music. If it'd be okay with you guys, I'd like to do that one more time. He actually left the World Heavyweight Championship in the ring, ran up the ramp, and waited for his music to hit again, just so he could do that awesome entrance one more time. And the crowd ate it up.
Yeah, great entrance. And speaking of great entrances, this segues really nicely, actually, into our next guy. The other half of Rated RKO, Randy Orton himself. Now, Orton, another guy whose theme I absolutely love. This Voices song.
Both of them.
They're both really good, and what I loved even more was when they were in Rated RKO and they combined the two into sort of a mashup. I absolutely loved. I love both of them. I love them together. Edge, Orton, and the theme together. Both were really, really good. I don't know. There's just the theme for Randy Orton. The voices inside my head. I don't know. There's few theme songs that fit a wrestler so perfectly as they do with Randy Orton. I mean, they're all obviously made to fit the specific wrestler, but that one just seems to fit that kind of crazy Viper character of Randy Orton. And, you know, as we're going to talk about next week, Randy Orton is arguably the face of WWE the past 10 to 15 years, depending on who you ask. But Orton's just one of these guys, you know, he always seems to be there. He always is doing great work. If he's not being a young delinquent who can't shut his mouth. Obviously, if you know any of the rather terrible stories about things that Orton has done to other wrestlers, specifically divas, but we won't get into that kind of thing. But Orton's just a fun guy to watch. He has that it factor that the great guys always have. And as you said, with Edge Edge and Shawn Michaels with tuning up the band and Edge getting in the corner waiting for the spear. I love watching Orton pound his fist on the mat, getting ready for the RKO, just waiting to snap out of anywhere. And we've talked about it on previous shows, but I feel like the RKO, and this was brought up by our friends over at RTM Wrestling, the RKO is kind of becoming the new age version of the stunner. Just that move itself just gets this enormous pop. No matter what else is going on, everybody loves seeing the RKO. They love seeing Orton come out. I love, whether he's a face or whether he's a heel. He's just fun to watch. He's probably a little better as a heel, I think. Or personally for me, if I have to choose, I just kind of like him kind of being that in-between kind of guy who just kind of attacks everybody and anybody who gets in his way. And, doesn't really differentiate. Although I think that would probably end up kind of slightly being more of a face character because people will get behind that a little more. But some of my favorite Orton matches, WrestleMania 31 against Seth Rollins, that was a really good match. Even if you just want to watch the last 7 seconds of the match with the greatest RKO of all time. We've seen a bunch of them. They're all really good. The first one, Backlash 2004 for the Intercontinental title. Randy Orton against Mick Foley in a street fight. That's just a really good match. That's a match where they both really clicked and everything really worked out well for both of these guys. And they put on one hell of a fight. They were both bloody and just beat up like no other. Thumbtacks, barbed wire, 2x4s, everything you can imagine in a hardcore match is what we got in this match, and it was really good. Another one you might have forgotten with Randy Orton was at No Mercy 2007. And if you don't remember the build up to this, which you probably don't because I had to look it up as well, Orton was set to face John Cena. As you know, these guys obviously faced 1.5 billion times. But Cena tore his pectoral muscle. Super Cena is not actually Superman. So Vince declared Orton the champion at No Mercy. Triple H was against this. They wrestled. Triple H beat Orton for the title. Well, Vince McMahon always doesn't like this as the authoritarian bad guy way back when Triple H wasn't the COO. He was just another one of the boys, fresh off a hot run with D Generation X. And so then Triple H goes on to face Umaga later in that night in the middle of the match. Beats Umaga. But then Orton gets a rematch at the end of the night. And it's just a really, really good last man standing match. Between Orton and Triple H. It has everything you would want in a last man standing match. Just violence and foreign objects, and Orton comes out the victor, and both guys look really, really good. So if you get a chance, I'd suggest you go watch that match. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say about Orton. I kind of ran a little bit. Matt, what do you think about the Viper, Randy Orton?
The Viper, the Apex Predator. My favorite version of Orton might be the Legend Killer, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Back when he came in and he was just beating the crap out of all these legends, Ric Flair, Sergeant Slaughter,
Mick Foley.
When he was flirting, okay, one time on Raw, it's comical actually. He was flirting with Brooke Hogan, and they were just like flirting. Brooke Hogan left. Hulk Hogan comes, he's like, what are you doing, brother, with my daughter? It's all that stuff. And so Randy Orton RKO's him on the trunk of the car. And, like Locker Talk guys, we go crazy for that kind of stuff because we don't like Hulk Hogan that much. But we love a good RKO. So Legend Killer RKO, and it was great because all throughout his Legend Killer days, the commentary would say, they call him Legend Killer, but one day He's going to become a legend in his own right, and that's exactly what he's done with his career. He's become a legend in his own right. Orton is 33 years old, which for all of you mathematical whizzes out there means he's got about 7 years of really good main event / high-end mid-card, great wrestling left in him. He's got a few World Heavyweight Championship reigns left in him, maybe, if the WWE doesn't fully go youth like we've seen, and we in our heart of heart hope happens. He is a 12-time World Heavyweight Champion, one more time than the last guy we talked about. One-time Intercontinental Champion, and he is only a one-time Tag Team Champion, and coincidentally, that one time was with Edge to form Rated RKO. There was a lot of great Rated RKO versus DX matches. Like the last guy we talked about, he's also a Triple Crown winner. Like the last guy we talked about, he's also a Royal Rumble winner. And like the last guy we talked about, he's also a Money in the Bank winner. So, and you might, I'm not going to make any promises to give anything away, but you might see that trend of Money in the Bank and Triple Crown just live on through the next guy we talk about. But as for Randy Orton, I love the RKO. Like RTM said, like Colton said, it's reaching that status of the stunner. I personally miss the punt to the head just a little bit. I think in that match, that steel cage match with Seth Rollins when the RKO was banned, I think the punch should have made an appearance just once. I did love when he had the punt because he had a rivalry with Vince and all of those other people. I believe he punted Stephanie McMahon in the head. He punted Shane in the head.
Yeah.
Did he make his way to Vince eventually? I can't remember.
He got Vince. I'm not sure if he got Linda or not.
I don't think he got Linda, but he did get Stephanie and Shane on Raw, and those were great to watch.
He got Triple H as well.
Yeah, I mean, the puns to the head was a great thing. His theme song is great. I liked his original theme song personally, but this one's also really good. He was also, hasn't been mentioned yet, he was a part of Evolution, which is one of the greatest stables of all time. You have up there the Four Horsemen, DX, Evolution, The Shield. I mean, Evolution is obviously one of the top five best stables of all time. It helped launch Randy Orton's career, his original feud with Triple H after he won. And I do believe he still holds the record for the youngest World Heavyweight Champion. I don't think Seth Rollins is younger. Yes, well, you'll have to look that up on your own time. But I believe Seth Rollins.
It's either Orton or Lesnar, I believe.
Lesnar won it before Orton, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Orton, yeah. Here, keep talking.
So Orton still holds that record.
I'll look it up.
While he's looking it up, I'll keep talking about Orton. He obviously has his off-the-screen issues with illegal drugs and this and that, but you can't deny his ability in the ring. It's fantastic. And his showmanship, the pure fact of the showmanship is fantastic. And let's not forget, folks, we all play wrestling video games. Who's one of the one guys we love to play as? Randy Orton, that's right. You love to play as Randy Orton because his movesets are incredible in those games, just like in real life. I mean, you just can't get over it. I actually, in fact, remember, because I was a huge Orton fan and all through the years, remember when he got the sleeved out tattoos. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but he had a few tattoos, and then just overnight, one Raw, he comes on, sleeved out tattoos. Blew my mind. But that's all I really have to say about Randy Orton. 12-time World Heavyweight Champion. I do hope, however, he gets a few more World Heavyweight Championship reigns under his belt. if they're going to seriously give Sheamus one, they need to give Orton 3 more at least. I mean, in my opinion, I know it's an unpopular one, but I'd much rather watch a Randy Orton match than a classic Ric Flair match. So if you could have Randy Orton beat Flair's title, I know Cena's going to demolish it, but it'd be really awesome if you had Cena and Orton. And just put aside the fact, because I know a lot of you guys watching right now are just cursing me out and just, yes, question.
It is Orton.
It is Orton. Orton is the youngest World Heavyweight Champion of all time. But back to the other thing, real fast, and we'll move on. I know a lot of you guys are just cussing me out and saying, Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time. Think about this. How awesome would it be to have the top 2 most decorated World Heavyweight Champions of all time be the ones from our generation? So we're watching the 2 greatest WWE superstars of all time, Cena and Orton, if Orton can pull it off. That'd be pretty awesome to say, wouldn't it? Moving on from that.
Speaking of people who should win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, I might be alone, or at least in a minority of thinking this. But the other person who tied for second place, the show-off Dolph Ziggler. Now, Mr. Ziggles, as he will be referred to from now on, has been in a lot of controversial, well, not really controversial. He's been in a lot of news in the wrestling world. Is that candy?
It's Skittles, yeah.
You didn't bring me any Skittles. Whatever. Anyways, Dolph Ziggler. Okay, where are we going? Dolph Ziggler has been in the news a lot lately. Apparently, at first, he was thinking about leaving WWE. Then apparently he had signed a contract with WWE. Then apparently he hadn't signed a contract with WWE. Then he kissed Lana, and then we were all like, oh, it doesn't really matter if he gets to kiss Lana on a weekly basis on Raw and SmackDown. So, Dolph Ziggler. What can we say about Dolph Ziggler? As with Edge being one of Matt's favorites, Dolph Ziggler's my guy. I've been a fan of Ziggler for, I don't know. It's been a while now. One of the things that got me into Ziggler is obviously that amazing work ethic and his amazing in-ring ability. Arguably one of the best in WWE, although I feel it's a bit unfortunate. He has been put in some, we'll call them disappointing storylines for a guy the caliber of Dolph Ziggler, who in my personal opinion, I feel has the ability, he has the look, he has the personality to be a top star in the business. And like with a young Mr. Orton, Ziggler sometimes opens his mouth and says what he feels says what he feels. A lot of the higher ups don't like that, and is why he hasn't always been at the top. Concussions don't help either. But even if you don't like Dolph Ziggler, you have to admit that he's definitely one of the better workers in WWE. He's a top-notch star, and if you watched Swerved on the WWE Network for a low price of $9.99, he's a really funny guy. He has his own stand-up routine. I haven't actually seen that, but I assume it's funny. He just seems like a pretty likable guy. He's gone through different things. Matt's frozen. Uh-oh. It seems like we've had a bit of an internet glitch. We would like to apologize for that. Where were we? Oh yeah. Our third pick in the tie for the second highest vote getter was the show-off Dolph Ziggler. Now, Ziggler's been in the news a lot lately. At first, there was rumor that he was leaving WWE. Then there was rumor that he had signed a new deal for WWE. Then there was a rumor he had not signed a new deal with WWE. And then he just kissed Lana and we all forgot about that stuff and was like, damn, wish I was Dolph Ziggler. Anyways, so Dolph Ziggler, even if you don't like the guy or you don't like his character, you can't deny that Dolph Ziggler is one of the best workers in WWE. The man just puts passion into every one of his matches and every one of his performances, and he does a really good job. Now, it's my personal opinion that Dolph Ziggler has the work ethic, he has the look, he has the mic skills, he has everything he needs to be a world heavyweight champion, to be the guy in WWE. But through a bunch of different circumstances, such as him tending to have a big mouth and saying things that the higher-ups might not necessarily like, or the fact that, as we've said on previous shows, that there are just so many guys right now, excuse me, that could be the top guy, that could be the world heavyweight champion. You know, there's Rollins, Ambrose, Reigns, Bray Wyatt, John Cena, Kevin Owens, anybody, you know, just the list goes on and on. There's tons of guys right now who legitimately could be the champion right now. You know, Sheamus as well. He's the Money in the Bank winner. And Ziggler's a guy, he's just going to go out there every night and he's never going to phone in a performance. He's going to give it his all. Okay, you moved. I thought the video froze again. You weren't moving. I got really, really scared. Anyways, sorry. So, Dolph Ziggler, here's one of my big thoughts on Dolph Ziggler. The man was able to go past being a caddy for a racist Chavo Guerrero golfer character. He got through being a male cheerleader and getting feces dumped on him by DX, and he became world heavyweight champion. One of the most memorable things about Dolph Ziggler is winning Money in the Bank. Dolph Ziggler had arguably one of the more memorable cash-ins in the history of Money in the Bank. There have been a lot of them, but I feel like one of them that sticks out really well is Dolph Ziggler cashing in on Alberto Del Rio way, way back in, what was that, 2011, 2012? I believe it's 2012, I believe. Either way, doesn't matter. It was honestly, it's one of the bigger pops I've ever heard from a WWE audience when Ziggler's music hits and everyone realizes he's cashing in Money in the Bank on Alberto Del Rio. It was the night after WrestleMania. Everything was just hot that night. It was really, really exciting. A few of my favorite Dolph Ziggler matches. I mean, I love Dolph Ziggler, so every Dolph Ziggler match is my favorite. But one of them, TLC, actually two of these matches are at the TLC pay-per-view. We'll go in chronological order because that's the kind of people we are. 2011 United States Championship, the Long Island Ice Z, Zack Ryder against Dolph Ziggler. These guys, they made this feud on their own. WWE created didn't do this. These two guys got on the internet, did a web show, and built the feud just from this one YouTube show. Which gives me a lot of hope because I like to think that if we do this, you and I could have a great feud one day. Yes, Matt, question. What is it?
It was 2012.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I like to think that with the way that Ziggler and Zack Ryder was able to build a feud, I feel like maybe one day we'll have a feud on WWE TV if it suddenly goes down the drain again. Another match, TLC 2012 against John Cena for that Money in the Bank, not belt.
Title?
Suitcase. There we go. Money in the Bank suitcase.
Briefcase.
Briefcase. Yeah. Wow, we suck. Anyways. But yeah, I think this was one of the two pay-per-view main events that Dolph Ziggler won. He was in a few of them for the World Heavyweight Championship. I believe he lost to Alberto Del Rio because of the concussions I mentioned earlier. But Dolph Ziggler beat John Cena in a match with a little bit of help from AJ Lee, but we're not gonna go there. We're just gonna keep going. And then obviously Survivor Series 2014 last year, when I felt that they made Dolph Ziggler look like $1 million. Obviously he had some help from Sting, but Ziggler was on his own against the Authority for much of the match. He'd been beat up, but he somehow still found a way. He found a way in the likes that people hate it when John Cena does it. But when he did it, everyone seems to like it because he doesn't do it all the time. But I really felt like they made Ziggler look really, really good there. And as you can see now, they didn't do jack squat with it. And that upsets me because I'm obviously very protective of my people. But yeah, I'm obviously a big Ziggler mark, so I'm going to be very biased on all my opinions on Ziggler. If I have to say anything bad about him, I think maybe keep your mouth shut a few times. Sometimes you have to just please the higher up to get somewhere. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But Matt, why don't you show off some of your thoughts about the show off?
Dolph Ziggler. What can I say about the old cheerleader? His caddying skills are very good. I'd love to have him as my caddy someday. Ziggler's currently 34 years old. That's for all of you mathematicians out there, that's a year older than Randy Orton, actually. A little older than I thought personally, and probably you guys thought too. The Survivor Series thing, that's a classic WWE creative mistake.
Yeah.
We saw the super kickers were coming left and right, and he sells a hit like no one's business. I mean, he gets hit with something, he goes down like a ton of bricks and just like sedated person just laying there. It's great to watch. And he sold it. He sold it left and right, and he came back. It was very Shawn Michaels-esque watching him wrestle during that Survivor Series match. Shades of Shawn Michaels were left and right with everything he did. It was great to watch. But then again, we also saw that with Cesaro, with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania last year. Nothing happened of it. So there we see WWE likes to push people for one specific event, and that's it. He is a two-time World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of people argue that one of those championships doesn't even really count, but they all count in my eyes. If you held the title even for 24 hours, still counts. Yes, I'm talking to you, Kane. Good job for you. But Ziggler, I mean, he's great. The thing about Ziggler is everyone wants him to be the main event guy. He's just as good, and it's really rare, just as good without any title. You doesn't have to be a title. A feud doesn't have to be a title feud. You can give him anything. It's really good to watch. His feud with Rusev right now, I feel, is more for the Diva's sake. I feel Summer Rae and Lana are both going to gain massive respect from a lot of WWE audiences if, and that's a very big if, they can pull off some of the wrestling moves. I know Summer Rae can. She proved herself down in NXT, I do believe. Was a good wrestler, but she got caught up with Fandango with the whole dancing thing. And a lot of her credibility got stolen. I know WWE wants Lana to be a face of the company, Divas division-wise. Ziggler needs to get out of this feud with Rusev. I know we'd all love to see like a Ziggler versus Neville thing, but you can't have face for face. However, Ziggler turning heel again per se his Twitter handle, Heel Ziggler,
#heel.
against Neville. Come on, that would be money all the way around the board. Fantastic to watch. Getting back to his titles, though, he's a one-time tag team champion. He is a four-time, count him up, four-time Intercontinental Champion, one-time U.S. That makes a triple crown, folks. He is also a Money in the Bank winner. You guys voted for 3 Money in the Bank winners and 3 Triple Crown winners. All 3 guys, these are great. Dolph Ziggler, some of the greatest merchandise there is. However, he just needs a solid feud. He needs to get away from Rusev. And with all the young talent coming in, step away from the main event scene the best you can when you're signing that contract and realize you can be one of the greatest mid-cards there is. You have some great years ahead of you. This is all a pride factor, I believe. And if he just puts his pride aside and says, all right, maybe the World Heavyweight Championship isn't what this is all about. It's about putting on great matches, and that's what it is. Like, at the end of the day, the hardcore fans, we're not going to count these titles that I've been telling you guys. We're going to count the matches. We're going to count the moments that made us realize, like, whoa, that just happened. Like, this is awesome. And you hear those chants. We're going to recount that Survivor Series match where you just came back on your own. We're not going to remember the 2 World Heavyweight Championships. And that's what Ziggler needs to remember when he signed that contract. Ring of Honor isn't going to give you that. So you just need to swallow your pride, have some great matches with Neville, Sheamus. It's going to be great.
Very well said. Well said. I like that. That was good. All right. Well, those are our main topics for the show. But we have a lot of fan questions. And so starting off, we're just going to get this one out of the way. Farmer, as you might know from hits such as being on our show, Farmer wants to know let's try this again. Who are we surprised is still in WWE? We just talked about him. I just danced to his music, Fandango. They're not doing all these low card people who they're not doing anything with is on the list for me. But just to specify, I'll say Fandango and Heath Slater. They're just hanging out in catering. Zack Ryder's not even in catering anymore. He's actually doing something with his career. I did consider putting Ryder on the list, but since he's down in NXT with not the major bros, that was a little back in the history. The Hype Bros, which is really exciting. Honestly, I feel like they've kept, not Ziggler. I'm struggling. I feel like they have kept Zack Ryder around this long simply for the fact of how popular he is on the internet. Otherwise, anyone else would have been gone long, long ago. But yeah, I'll say Heath Slater, Fandango, Cameron, because he has to be one of the worst divas in ever. And Layla, she used to be really, really good. She used to be the top diva in the division. And now she's in those backstage scenes where there's divas gathered around with each other and they're standing and chit-chatting. And that's really the only reason Layla's there. And apparently she's British, which I didn't know because she didn't have a British accent, and then she had a British accent. And I don't really know what she is or who she is. But yeah, I'll go with those 4. I know you've got some more popular opinions for people who we might want gone, not who we might be surprised are still around. So Matt, who do you got?
Well, I'm going to take a page out of the Pocket Rocket Emma's book and say, excuse that poor British accent, I couldn't resist. I'm going to say the dads with Kane and the Big Show. First of all, anyone who just hangs around backstage shirtless, Kane, why are you still there? I mean, I guess Randy Orton just hangs around in his underwear, but that's his own prerogative. Yeah, definitely Kane and Big Show. I'm going to go R-Truth on this.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, his greatest accomplishment is coming out thinking he was in the match because New Day wasn't ready to enter. That's his greatest accomplishment. You should probably just retire. I'm going to say Heath Slater for sure. Heath Slater did have some promise. I'm going to go with not Zack Ryder. Jack Swagger. Because Jack Swagger could be a world champion in Ring of Honor, TNA, or Lucha Underground easily. His talent, his ability, his name alone gives him that factor. And then I'm going to go with another one. I'm going to go with Ryback.
Oh.
And I know he's the current Intercontinental Champion. But given the fact that his size and his strength and Vince McMahon's love for that stuff, and he still never won a World Heavyweight Championship, kind of rings some bells of why are you still here? People don't really like him. Even now that people are gaining some love for him and his Intercontinental Championship, and then they're giving him the mic. They're like, all right, yeah. People are like, yeah, he's cool. But I guarantee you, if they're like, you want Ryback there, or do you want Finn Balor to be brought up? Every one of them would say, bring Finn Balor up. We're going to just drop him. Drop Ryback. No one cares about him. So.
Drop him. Drop him now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I went off a little off the beaten path there with Ryback, but I just don't see why he's still in there. Also, Daniel Bryan. And I know that's a real unpopular opinion. I don't see why Daniel Bryan's still, not necessarily in the WWE, but on the active roster. I believe after multiple injuries, WWE should realize, and this even happens in real sports like baseball and football, when you get too many injuries, they take you out. Like, you can't physically do it anymore because no matter how money hungry they all have a little bit of a conscience saying, this may actually really injure this guy. And Daniel Bryan is that person. We all love to watch him, the GOAT. But one bad move, and he's done. Even Edge had the sense of leaving, and it tore him in half to leave. So I'm going to say Daniel Bryan, but I think he should stay on for training, for NXT purposes, for tough enough purposes, all of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right, well, thanks for your question, Farmer. We're not going to answer the one about The Rock, which movie of The Rock's our favorite, because they all really suck. So
I'm going to say Fast and Furious 5 on that one, though.
Okay, but they all suck. So, anyways, moving on. Our next question is from our good friend Steven Cyril. He's on Twitter at Steven Cyril, or you can go find him at letstalkwwe.com. We mentioned him earlier in the show before our internet messed up. Steven wants us to know, banking off a discussion that was had on RTM Wrestling about the current state of NXT. And so just to give you guys a little background, if you don't want to go and watch their show, which I recommend you do, they actually know what they're talking about and give good coherent sentences and words without rambling as I'm doing right now. But basically the whole point is wondering if NXT is kind of going away from its intended purpose. And the intended purpose of NXT is obviously to be a developmental system for WWE. It's to bring people in, and it's to train them to be WWE superstars. And that's really what it started out as. You had, these guys like your Bo Dallas, your Adam Rose, the Ascension, these guys who were being developed to become big stars, and they were really over in NXT. But then after a while, you bring in some of these indie stars, your Sami Zayn, your Adrian Neville, and more recently Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, Kevin Owens, who are already established stars. They know how to wrestle. You don't need to teach them, what really to do. You obviously need to do some fine tuning to get their moveset in the right order for WWE programming. But you really don't have to do a whole lot with these guys. And so I feel like it causes a little bit of problems with when you're comparing the guys like Kevin Owens and Finn Balor to the people who are in NXT to be in NXT for developmental. And so you can't really go about comparing a guy like Finn Balor to a guy like Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin he hasn't been wrestling for 15, 20 years like a Kevin Owens or a Finn Balor has. And so I feel like people like Baron Corbin get a lot of crap for not being really good. And there is some validity to that. But the fact is he is there to learn. He is there to get better. And if you ask me, I feel like he's definitely been improving every week. And as we see. And so I feel like that causes a little bit of an issue. But as you have these guys who are established indie stars coming in, it's made NXT this really big thing really quickly. And they're wanting to make NXT its own touring brand. And so that caused a lot of issues. But at the same time, these big name guys, they can't stay in NXT forever. Like your Adrian Neville and your Kevin Owens have already done. They can't stay down there forever. And so I feel like at this time, like we've talked about, they're needing a little bit of star power. Because, after Kevin Owens most likely loses the belt to Finn Balor, you'll have Balor, you'll have Samoa Joe, you'll have a Tommy in a few months, and you might have Sami Zayn if he comes back to NXT, or he might come straight to the main roster. You don't really know. But you're kind of at a crossroads. Do you bring in more big indie guys to fill in those big spots to make this a big touring brand? Or do you just keep trying to develop from inside and make Baron Corbin potentially a big star, or Enzo and Big Cass? Do you put them on more? I don't know how you do that more. They seem to be on every week. Not that I'm complaining. They are indeed awesome, and you can't teach that. So yeah, I feel like NXT kind of got too big for its britches, to use a term that people use for some reason. It got big really quickly, and so if you see any fault in NXT with some of these people, it looks like a really big problem when compared to these really polished people like a Finn Balor. And so yeah, I'm not really sure. I think we might have already reached the peak of like NXT, I want to say awesomeness, but maybe of its highest star power potential. But I think there still is definitely a bright future. We have some big guys coming up, and there's always the potential for more indie signings. There's always potential for more people to be developed. But I think we're at a big crossroads here, where if not treated the right way, NXT could quickly fade out and just become more of a like it was in the old times, just a developmental that doesn't really get the notoriety that it does. But as long as Triple H is developing and the head of all this stuff, I feel like it's going to be fine. But yeah, I feel like there's a really big chance to lose a lot of star power, but I'm confident that they will find a way to get through it. Matt, I know you don't really watch NXT as much as I do, but I know you were trying to study earlier about our superstars and ended up watching NXT anyways. So, what do you got for this one?
I got 2 letters and a last name for NXT.
Soft. Oh, wait, never mind.
AJ Styles.
Oh, fuck.
That's the last indie star you need. You sign AJ Styles, you're complete, man. He's the hottest name. If this was the NBA right now, all the free agents, I think I'd compare AJ Styles to LeBron James.
Oh, God.
LeBron James was technically a free agent.
Just stop it. Oh, this is horrible.
My co-host does not really watch TNA. I don't think he knows too much about AJ Styles and his career.
Oh, I know about AJ Styles.
You're talking about Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, talent off the charts. even compared to Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe can't do most of what AJ Styles can do. He's an older version, I believe, of what Neville is. You bring AJ Styles in there, it's solidified because he could help. Because really, when you think about it, Samoa Joe is not going up to the main roster. Rhino's not going up to the main roster. You bring in AJ Styles wouldn't go up to the main roster. So you'd have your three pillars, or you have your however many pillars, however many old guys you want to bring in from the indie circuits or old times. And then you shuffle these guys in through there, like Enzo and Big Cass, the Vaudevillains, Bull Dempsey, if you want to throw him in there. All these guys. Whenever he's done jobbing to people. You have all these guys, because all these guys have the potential to come up. And anytime you would need a main mid-card thing, like a rivalry, you could bring a Samoa Joe up. You could bring an AJ Styles up. You can bring these guys up. I think, and I'm going to agree with RTM, that you need to bring Enzo and Big Cass up as soon as possible to feud in the tag team division, because they have that star power. They have it, and I agree with them fully. The commentary can, take a shit all over them when they're coming out, because they're talking. Enzo and Big Cass are talking, and the crowd's gonna eat it up. It's great to watch. It's fun. It's entertaining. You love it. The Vaudevillains are getting there. So it's going to be great to watch that happen. The tag team division definitely needs revamping with all the injuries that are happening right now. However, with NXT, how it used to be, I think it's fine. If, you have the Shield came from there, Bray Wyatt came from there, the rest of the Wyatt family came from there, Cesaro came from there. When you really think about it, most of the main roster, the people are getting pushes, the people are getting main events, the people are getting the big mid-card spots. They're NXT originals. So, therefore, NXT is doing its job. You just now notice that it's kind of lacking star power, and that's what I think what this question is getting to, because of the main hype that it's getting, because when the Shield was there, it wasn't what it was now. So I feel like that's where this question is coming from. If you just let it happen, Triple H and the rest of the developmental, like D. Brian Kendrick and all those other guys, William Regal, they'll find more people, even in the indie circuits, not necessarily big indie stars, but they'll find more people to come in, they'll train them up, and I feel like NXT really isn't a spot where you learn how to wrestle necessarily, it's where you learn to hone your character. Like the Vaudevillains are, yes.
Another place where you don't learn to wrestle, Tough Enough. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
We'll be getting to that. It's where you learn to hone your character, like the Vaudevillains. If you throw the Vaudevillains out in the WWE main roster, cold turkey, it would go over like a lead balloon. It would just suck. People would hate it. But they're honing their character, and they're learning how to control that character. They can wrestle on their own. Any indie person, any person like that, can know how to wrestle a WWE match. It's that character, that developmental, that mindset, that entrance, that ring talk, all that stuff that Triple H talks about. That is the true talent that you need to learn, the showmanship of it all. And that's what I think NXT does, and that's what I think that its biggest accomplishment's been. It's given all these guys their character and their confidence, because they could wrestle left and right before. So they just need to keep cranking that out, and they'll be fine.
Yeah. I will say this about the Vaudevillains. I did not know how to be a man until I saw the Vaudevillains. And now, as you know, you see, here I am. So, thank you, Steven, for that question. We have another question from Mr. Steven Cyril. He wants to know about the Tokyo Live event, which will be airing before we get this show published. I will probably get up really, really early, watch the show, and then I will post this video to YouTube right afterwards if I don't pass out from being exhausted. But yeah, he wants to know how we would book the Tokyo live event and what we would do, who would win, and all this stuff. And so we kind of thought this could go a few different ways. We could either pick how we would do it with the current lineup, with the current match card. We could do a what match card we would make. And so I'm just going to go through the current match card and just kind of look at it. The first thing that jumps out to me is Cesaro versus Diego. Why the hell is this match happening? I don't know, but Cesaro needs to be in a different match. I don't know. Another match that sticks out with me, other than the big matches, and we'll discuss one in a little bit more detail later, is Neville against Chris Jericho. Did you hurt yourself?
Yeah, it's like a cramp behind the kneecap.
That's a brutal one. Anyways, I'll keep talking while you massage your kneecap. So, I almost said Ziggler again. Neville against Chris Jericho. Jericho's been doing this thing, obviously, where he wrestles live events. He doesn't really want to be on TV unless it has a good storyline. And so it'll be interesting to see. We haven't seen Jericho in a long time, so I assume we'll be seeing him wrestle on the show. They haven't really announced what matches they will be showing on the network. My sources tell me it will be about a 2-hour show, so they could really fit this entire match card in there. But I think Jericho versus Neville could be a really interesting match. I think it could be a really, really good match. These two guys are obviously really, really good at what they do. One of them is the best in the world at what he does, and the one is the man that gravity forgot, the flip man, the man who needs a good feud, Neville. And so I'm really excited about this. So I would drop Cesaro Diego. I would put Cesaro against, or really anybody else, any competent person. It doesn't matter. Find him an opponent who isn't one of the Matador Bull fighter dudes. At least I think that's who Diego is. Or is he that little guy who's on the Nickelodeon TV show with Dora the Explorer or something along those lines?
Diego.
It's sad that I knew what I was talking about there. But yeah, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens. We talked about this a little bit on our last show, which was quite a while back. But yeah, I think Finn Balor has got what it takes. This will kind of be a sort of a homecoming for him coming back to Japan. If you haven't watched the Finn Balor kind of promo little thingy-majiggers they've been doing on NXT the past 3 weeks, they did a special on it on the WWE Network. Go watch it. It's absolutely fantastic. You get this great story of the man Fergal Devitt, better known as Prince Devitt, better known as Finn Balor. And so it's a really, really good watch. You get to see a lot of cool things about this guy. If you don't love him afterwards, you're just a soulless, heartless, terrible person. And give it a watch. It should be really great. But, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really answer this question very well. Ziggler's there, so I don't really care that much. He's going to be on the card, so that's really all I care to see. Matt, what fantasy book this or pick how you would want this to happen, or yeah, go for it. I don't know. Ow.
All right. Well, let's start off with that Diego versus Cesaro match. I'd scratch that. I would probably put Cesaro versus Sheamus or Cesaro versus King Barrett, I guess now, because either one of those opponents would give Cesaro a great match. I'd have Cesaro win either way. Cesaro's going to win either way anyway against Diego.
I hope.
Also, with the Finn Balor Kevin Owens match, I was a firm believer that Kevin Owens would keep the title, but with all of these promos and all of this backstory that we're getting on Finn Balor, it's kind of hard to keep denying that Finn Balor's not going to win it. The only beef that I really have with that is Kevin Owens dropping the NXT World Heavyweight Championship. Is it really going to make a difference in the long run of things? And I feel like dropping a World Heavyweight Championship should kind of put a kink in things, and it should be like exploited just a little bit. And it's just not with Kevin Owens and what they're doing with him. So that kind of gets on my nerves just a little bit. But that's gonna be the best match of the night. That's gonna be your main event, really. That's gonna be the one reason you should probably wake up in the States here, wake up at 5 a.m. to watch that match. Also, we have the Chris Jericho versus Neville. Now, this is kind of like father and son wrestling here. You have the 44-year-old facing the Neville. I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 23, maybe 24 years old. He's something like that.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's going to be a good match. Neville's going to have to carry a lot of the high-flying maneuvers. We know Chris Jericho as a high flyer, sort of. But as he gets older, obviously I haven't seen him wrestle in a while because he's just doing live events, and that's not on the network or anything like that. So we don't know, but I feel like he's grounded a lot more because, yes.
He's 28.
28? Wow. Neville, man, come on. Father time over here. So, Neville's 28. Yes.
Also, I'd like to congratulate Neville. He just got married, I think this last weekend or the weekend before that. So, congratulations, Neville. I know you're never going to watch this, but yeah, if you didn't know, Neville just got married, so send him a tweet or...
Congratulations to Adrian Neville. Yeah. That is your real name.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
But I think Neville, if there was any time to really need to win a match, it's this one. And I hate to say that for someone in a live event, because a live event doesn't even really count towards someone's career, minus Finn Balor, Kevin Owens in that match. But Neville really needs to win this match. I mean, it's almost treated like a pay-per-view because it's going to be on the network. So it's kind of like what WWE's doing with these, like, oh yeah, Fastlane, with these, like, it's a pay-per-view, trust me. Like, it's really a pay-per-view, just believe me. So it's kind of like one of those things WWE's doing. So Neville kind of needs this win. Everyone's going to see it. All the hardcore fans are going to see it. And a win over Chris Jericho in a live event in Tokyo would be great. And you got to believe it's going to be in Tokyo. Neville's going to be high-flying all over the place. I know for one, when I watched Raw, I was kind of PO'd when he couldn't pull off the Red Arrow. I was like, well, no, you give the people what they want to see, damn it. Like... I was kind of mad, so I'm looking forward to seeing the Red Arrow again. Obviously, he'll hit it. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. He'll most likely hit it. I mean, it's a live event in Tokyo, so whatever you want to believe there. Also, with the Kofi Kingston Brock Lesnar match, everyone's like, why is this even happening? You couldn't find someone else. You couldn't put Rusev out there in the boot. We're going to talk about this match later, actually, in a different fan question, so I'm going to stop there.
You're excited. That's what's important here. You're really excited. But we just had a fan question coming in my head, because I thought of it as you were talking. What do you expect out of the production of this show? Obviously, it's going to be a live event. It's going to be in Tokyo. They're obviously not going to have their A game, for one, because it's a live event, and two, it's in Tokyo. You can't really bring all of your equipment over to Japan. So what are you expecting out of this? Obviously, it's going to be a little better than what you would get because it's on the network. But is it going to be kind of one of those in between there? I mean, you're not going to get like a a SummerSlam set here. You're just gonna no.
I've seen live events before. I have a VHS tape. I actually took a picture of it, tagged RTM in it to show that I had a Manchester live event. I mean, that's obviously leaps and bounds from when that tape happened. The good ones were on that tape, for crying out loud. But live events, they're just not as good. The camera angles won't be that good. You'll have, like how on Raw you have every single camera angle. You have the Wile E. Coyote camera angle for whatever reason you want. You have those new ones that they put in of each ring post. You have them all over the place. As you'll notice from the live events like in Tokyo, you'll have a few really good camera angles, but most of them that you're used to, you won't see. You'll have 3 really, really good camera angles that they'll go to all the time. But like Colton said, you won't be able to bring all your equipment. So you won't see a lot of things. I think it'll be better for shot calling for sure because you won't have all those close-ups. So wrestlers will be able to call their shots a little better to each other. They'll be able to communicate a little better. And that might actually fit in and help people like Neville and Chris Jericho in their
John
matches.
Cena, who yells everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. NXT, I believe Byron Saxton said that he and Michael Cole will be calling the action for this live event. So that could be pretty interesting, especially if they're only going to go with the 2-man commentary team. We haven't seen that in a while. That should be interesting to see. But we will get to our next fan question that Matt was so excited to talk about. We actually have 2 questions here, but they're essentially along the same lines as Matt alluded to earlier. The questions are from @Let'sTalkWrestle and @NickGator, who does the Gator Pit podcast. If you want to give those guys a listen to, go ahead and do that. Should be really fun. But basically, they're wanting to know about the match that we haven't talked about, Brock Lesnar against Kofi Kingston. Why is this match happening? Why are they doing this to Kofi Kingston? Why does this need to happen, really? And so, if you want the legitimate reason, it's because Brock Lesnar is using the WWE to give him a paid trip to Japan instead of paying for it himself, because he's obviously just hurting for money sorely for only working 12 nights a year. I mean, Santa doesn't even get paid this kind of stuff, but that's a different kind of story. But yeah, the reason I think they're putting Kofi Kingston against Brock Lesnar is that Kofi is one of the best in ring work. Kofi, I feel, is the kind of guy who would say, okay, I will get the hell beaten out of me by Brock Lesnar. A lot of guys probably wouldn't be too keen on doing that, but I feel like Kofi would be the kind of guy who would just say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so they just want a believable guy for Brock Lesnar to beat up. It's probably not going to be much of a match. I don't think Lesnar is really going to want to put a lot of effort into this. He's not the kind of guy like Ziggler who will put everything into every match. He just wants to get his trip paid for and show up for one night. And I just think Kofi Kingston is probably one of the better guys to do that. He sells really well. He is really good at it. And they could potentially do some stuff with the New Day. I don't think they will. They were on the card against... Are they on the card? I don't know if the New Day's on the card.
They were originally on the card against Cesaro and Kid, but we are not able to get an updated card featuring them.
Yeah, they're not being very specific on this. But yeah, I just feel like it's... Kofi Kingston is a guy who's just going to make Brock Lesnar beating somebody up believable, and he was probably willing to do that. I don't think it's really much more than that. They know that Kofi's a credible guy to do all this stuff, and he's going to be the unfortunate one to do it. He's a braver man than I'll say that. Matt, what do you think about Brock and Kofi? I know you're really excited about this one.
Well, out of all the people in New Day, Big E would have been even more believable because of his stature and his just muscle mass. That'd have been more believable. But Kofi is really good at selling the hits and the blows and everything like that. So that's going to be good for him. But, I mean, you could have thrown out Rusev out there with the boots and just been like, Rusev, just kind of hobble around a little bit. It still would have been more believable than Kofi Kingston going up against going up against Brock Lesnar, because they built up Lesnar into this such a beast that's unbeatable and this and that, and they're kind of chipping away at that just a little bit with what they did on Raw last week, where they all kind of ganged up and beat him up. And I feel like adding to that would be if Brock Lesnar was just beating the holy hell out of Kofi Kingston, and out of nowhere Kofi Kingston did one offensive move, kind of caught him off balance. Lesnar went in, and Kofi caught him in a roll-up, pinned him. Lesnar just lost his shit and just beat the crap out of Kofi Kingston, beat the referee up, beat all the security guys up that are coming in. And that'll lead into a great storyline with Seth Rollins and the SummerSlam. Is it SummerSlam that they're facing against?
Battleground.
A great Battleground storyline, because it'll be a pent-up Brock Lesnar again. But it'll be cracks in the seams because he lost to Kofi Kingston. Unthinkable. Shock the world. Plus, it'll show all those people you should probably wake up at 5 in the morning to watch wrestling. So I think, yeah, they could take it a few different roads, but knowing WWE for what it is, it's just Brock Lesnar going to win against Kofi Kingston. It's going to be BS to watch.
Yeah. Thank you once again to @LetTalkWrestle and @NickGator for those questions. Really good stuff. I'm glad you guys were giving us some input. First time question askers. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. And let's see. Trying to find out where to go next. Well, it looks like we're getting back to our good old friends at RTM Wrestling. We alluded to earlier, RTM's first question is, what are our thoughts on Tough Enough? And if you don't watch RTM Wrestling, go watch their most previous episode, their most recent episode. Andy does a really, really good rant, digging into Tough Enough and all that it claims to stand for and all of its BS. He does a really good job. I was listening to it and thinking, wow, these are my exact thoughts on this show. He did a really good job. But to sum up my first point, it has Hulk Hogan, and just stop. Go away. And the next point, Tough Enough is a reality show. The WWE is gearing this toward a reality fan base. This isn't a show for wrestling fans. I asked Twitter and if there was actually any wrestlers, and I got a reply. I can't remember who for the life of me. If you're watching, I'm sorry. I'll catch you next time. They said there was a couple of MMA fighters, a professional wrestler, and an alligator wrestler. And that's the closest to being a professional wrestler. But in their final 40, there was a ton of like not really big indie wrestlers, but there was a ton of indie wrestlers, and they all got cut. Why? Because they're wrestlers. You're not trying to make a wrestler out of this show. We're just trying to get TV ratings. We're trying to get on a good reality show. I haven't actually watched it. From what I've been told and what I've seen is that this show is, like all reality shows, is completely scripted. A lot of drama being added in the show for drama's sake. And so it's not really a wrestling show. We've all seen these Tough Enoughs before in the past. They don't make a star. It's not really anything. Apparently, there's also a reward, or an award, not a reward, of $250,000. If you remember from the last Tough Enough, the award was a $1 million WWE contract. However, what they did not tell you is that that contract was $250,000 a year, but the WWE could opt out of that contract after the first year. That's what happened with What's His Face, who won. Nobody remembers who he is. He was on Raw one time, and he walked, and he might have said some words, and that's all she wrote. And so, being a wrestling fan, I just have a problem with Tough Enough. They're not trying to make a star. They're just trying to get better ratings, to get a fun show for people to watch, and to have drama, which is a big reason why I don't watch Total Divas either. It's just a fabricated mess of a show, which is saying a lot since what we watch every week is a fabricated wrestling show where everything is predetermined. But it kind of says a lot when wrestling fans say they don't like a predetermined show. So, yeah, I don't like Tough Enough. It's just a bad concept. Apparently there was a guy that said he didn't need to know anything about wrestling, which isn't really the good thing to say on a show where you're trying to become a wrestler. But what do I know? We didn't make it on the show, so that's okay. Matt, what are your thoughts on Tough Enough? Are you a little nicer towards Tough Enough than I am? I sure to God hope not. Oh no. No, he froze again. Come back. Oh no. Oh, please. Come back. What's happening?